it has always been about communication and believing that I honestly believe that I cannot outsource it. And that's why I think most parents, we miss it because we want to leave it to be the responsibility of the teacher or to be the responsibility of the mother. But we are together in this thing, we need to take our responsibility as well.
Welcome back. Parent-to-parent discussion. Wow. We have a parent today. He's going to help us guide the process. He's probably going to have questions and probably going to have some tips for us, because not only is he a parent, but he's also a personal growth and personal development facilitator, a coach, and sees to human development. So welcome to our guest, thozi Hlalele. It's so good to have you here, Mr. Hlalele. The beauty is that this is a parent-to-parent discussion. And we are looking at our discussion should be empowering parents in terms of what do we think happens at school, what do we think of our children, what our fears are in terms of what happens at school, what are fears generally as parents. Or how do we support school? How do we avoid dropouts that happen at a later stage? What are those things? So the discussion is really broad, and it is good to know that you carry this other background. So I'd like you to greet our audience and tell them who you are.
Great. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate this opportunity. And my name is thozi Hlalele, as you have already indicated, and I operate in the space of life and business coaching. My motto is just simple. It is to use my life experience to cultivate personal mastery and leadership in people across the world. So that is who I am. If I see change in people, I really get inspired and motivated. Thank you.
That's just so good in terms of that's your profession, but you're also a parent.
Yes.
And you're a parent of ages and sex of your children?
Well, I'm a parent of two children. The older one is 20. She is a girl, already at university.
Right.
And the second born is a boy. He's 16, but turning 17 in the next month.
Wow. So that places you as a parent who has young people in your life at the thinking phase.
Yes.
When we think of the child developmental stages, is the adolescence. And in terms of the consciousness, they are in the thinking phase. How has it been? Probably let's talk about what were your best times.
Wow. It's difficult really to pick which one was the best. But I would like to believe that each of those categories would have its best. But if you were to really push me against the wall, I would say 0 to 7.
The 0 to 7, the will phase.
Yes, because during that phase, it's more the control on the parent side, in a sense that you instill your values, you try to guide your children at that point in time. And there's very little about a response in terms of, say, chatting back or challenging your views.
Right.
So that one is more of if you like, an authority type of position. And it was more of the best, but not from a point of domineering, but just to say, this is a sacred opportunity for me to be able to shape my children in a way that I believe they should portray themselves into the world.
I want to believe it's the best for many parents because we are excited and we are present.
Yes.
In that stage, we observe everything, and this is all new to us. Do you remember any fears around that time?
Yes.
As a new parent?
The fear was, in the event I'm not there, what would happen?
Right.
And not there meaning being away maybe on a holiday or at work, and then you leave the children with somebody else. So that was the fear, to say, would they do what I expect them to do in helping me to raise the kids? Right. And now, for example, I'm talking about the helpers at home. The other one fear was, even with my parents, during holidays when we took the kids to the parents to say, grandparents, they love the grandchildren, and say, hey, will they let them do or run free on certain things? But the worst fear was, what if the Creator calls me?
Your fears will be interesting to fathers, because it sounds like these are big fears.
Yes.
And I think for mothers, it's like the moment is this moment. The most important moment is this. They are fine, or the auntie, the nanny is there. And I know she'll be fine. Probably mothers, we trust a little bit much. You've just brought in the energy of fathers into this discussion, because even in workshops, this is what you pick up. Fathers have got bigger fears, larger fears, which is really good for this particular episode, because we're looking at the school time. What is it that happens at school? So now they are beyond 7 and they're between 7 and 14. What was happening for you at that time?
The level of communication between the teachers and us as the parents was helping a lot to mitigate fears. But having said that, it does not mean that there were no fears at all. One of the things that I vividly remember was the whole issue of bullying at school. That was one particular fear that I had to say, what if it happens to them? Always wanting to be there and try to protect. But that fear had got to a point where it subsided. Especially with my daughter, because I started to see her. I don't know if that is the right choice of word in terms of feistiness. She could stand for herself in most of the things. And then I started seeing that she won't be taken for a ride, And the fact that now the younger one, when he joined the school, the older sister was already at school. So they weren't really fears. It was just a question of this school, and the ethos is great. And I believe that they are in the right hands.
In the program, I talk about your child is learning all the time.
Yes.
Children are learning. Learning is a natural thing. Now, we're observing children when they are learning on our kitchen floors, crawling and so on, or as they play in our backyard. And school is a larger backyard. And you are touching on knowing the ethos of the school. Is this place safe? Because when a child is playing around on our kitchen floor, we make sure that it is safe. Everything is safe. The place is safe. On the backyard, we make sure that it is safe. Do we really think that deep when we take them to school? Is this school safe for my child? And sometimes we overdo that. We take children to schools that are far from our own neighborhoods, for safety or for other reasons. And you come to a point where you are comfortable as a parent. Knowing that, having secured a place with good ethos and so on, What was your role?
The role that I played was to attend meetings when the school calls for meetings, attend SGBs as well, so that my contribution can also be known. But not only that, also hear firsthand if there are concerns from the school, but also not only at the school itself, but back home as well. Because if I send my kids into the school and I expect that teachers should hold certain values, I think it's fair enough to start with me. So it was back at home to say, even if I don't call them out, but at the back of my mind, I know that there are certain values of respect, of integrity that I believe in, and I would continuously want to instill that in my kids.
Right.
For example, if we are out having a dinner or eating out, and then I would see that my children, the way they speak to each other, they speak to another person, then I would at that point intervene, because when they come out of the home into the school again, that should be a reflection on me.
So you're saying that the teaching of children or the learning was happening everywhere. Wherever you are, it's happening at school, but you play your role at home in seeing the development happening.
Correct.
Just like you were doing when they were 0 to 7, when they were exciting, you were observing the changes and the development that is happening, and you continue to do that and you play a role. It's also important that we understand our socio-economic situations. Is that, was it the time issue? Was it parents not believing that they cannot contribute into that space? Or is it just lack of understanding what is it that happens in school?
At any moment in our lives, there will be issues that are contesting for time. So for me, it's about the value that you place on the education of your child, really teetering on the aspect of potentially judging why the other parents would not be there. But in my mind, I would safely say it is about the value that you place on the education of your child. I wouldn't say it's external factors like time. Not that they are not. The time is not important. Maybe other parents are working too far from the schools. That I take into consideration. But there are other ways maybe we can use, like maybe to send an elder child, to send an uncle, an aunt to the meetings. But basically, I would say, in my view, it's more whether we treat this as a priority, because if it's a priority, then we'll make time.
I want to touch base on this booklet.
Yes.
It's really summarizing for parents. What is it that, first, the understanding of your child development, but also what happens in school that you don't have to be afraid of.
Yes.
That there are roles you can play as a parent. When you know and understand learning developmental stages themselves, learning development and how it happens, it's like educators are guided by certain principles. And these principles allow them to observe if learning development is happening. The teacher teaches and then observes. And it's those observations that, for me, is these opportunities of attending meetings give us. They give us a space of a teacher feeding you back on how your child is developing. I picked up the learning deficiency of my daughter from a parents' meeting. So we could pick up things that we can sort themselves out ourselves. And that, because that allows me to then seek help for my child in her hearing problem, which could have been a bigger problem later on. If she doesn't hear the teacher, she cannot learn. And we started sorting the problem out. So parents' participation is important. Let's talk about your children at this phase, which many parents call it the most challenging phase. But I've also heard from young people themselves, it's the most challenging for them. How was it for you, and what has been your experience and your participation as a father?
At the beginning, it was more about now a point where they would like to go out and visit friends, sleepovers, have their friends come in. So it was that question that always came to me to say, to what extent do I give this leeway, if you call it, to say they can still go out and have friends come over? So it was also about balancing that discipline, but also allowing them to go out into the world, if you like. So that was the main thing. But then the other thing was allowing them to be, and it was always that challenge to say, at what point do I let go? At what point do I still become the father and guide every step of their way? So for me, that was the main challenge during that phase, and still continues to be the same challenge, because the question was, have I planted enough seed in the children for them to be able to stand for themselves out there in the world?
There's a crucial part at this stage, and that is pre-puberty and the puberty stage. And it's good that you're a father. How did you handle that? Because again, parents shy away, or they don't know what to do, or they let the school do the sorting of that stage, or they over strict again in what that may result into. How did you handle pre and puberty ages?
I honestly don't know if there's any other tool except communication. Because that's one of the tools that I relied a lot when my children were going through puberty. And there's this particular moment that I remember, especially with my daughter. It was on the 21st January 2012. I remember that morning vividly because we were supposed to go to the gym as a family. And at that point, their mother called me out and said, we can't go to the gym. And I asked the question, but why not? And she says, the day has arrived for the daughter. And I remember when I looked her in the face, she was like feeling down and she didn't want to engage. And later that day, I was watering the garden, and then I called her out to join me as I was watering the plants. And I said, your mom told me what you experienced today. And I said, don't worry, it's part of you growing. But do you know what it means for you? You know? And she told me that, no, it's cool. They told us that we'll go through our cycles, you know, at some point in our lives. And from that conversation, I started seeing her gaining her confidence, you know. And for me, that was an important thing because I told myself that I'm going to be a different parent of this age and not outsource, if you like, everything to the mother. You know, and I felt that I had to have the conversation myself with her. And I'm still proud of that moment even now, you know. And it even evolved into a point where when we go for groceries, and I was not afraid to go and point at the pets as an example, you know, because it started at that point. And the same happened with the boy child as well, because I remember at some point he was saying he was starting to have wet dreams. And then it again boiled down to conversation to say, what does it mean, you know? And basically I would say even for both, it has always been about communication and believing that I honestly believe that I cannot outsource it. And that's why I think most parents, we miss it because we want to leave it to be the responsibility of the teacher or to be the responsibility of the mother. But we are together in this thing, you know. We need to take our responsibility as well, you know. I've heard other fathers saying, but I cannot talk to my girl child about going through their cycle because I haven't experienced it. But I'm saying honor the experience. You don't have to have experience. Just honor the experience so that the other person can understand that you know where they are. Because I realized that even me growing up, I was just told to say, or you know, but I realized that it did not work for me.
Yeah.
Then I realized that with my children, I need to explain so that they've got
Right.
better understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What you're addressing, Botaki Hlalele, is that you're recognizing that the children at this stage are confronted by several things.
Yes.
There are transitioning. So there's a physical transitioning, there's a mental transitioning to adulthood, there's a social transitioning. They're transitioning in that they're also making friends. They want to belong to something bigger than just the family. So again, you felt that communication is at the base of these relationships in allowing the transition to happen.
Yes.
Right. And you are at a stage where your child is moving towards university.
Yes.
That is like they're flying out of the nest. What can you say to that? How has it been, and what does it mean to you as a father?
That was a bit of a challenging phase because for 18 years, if you like, this family unit has been together under the same roof.
Yeah.
But here's the time now. It's inevitable. It's going to happen, you know. And I don't want to lie. That phase came to me to say, what does the world hold out there, you know? But immediately then, and I think it's an important tool. And I'm not saying everything was perfect about me because I had my own fears as well. But I think going back to ourselves and saying what happened to me at that stage.
Yeah.
Because I remember I used to attend in this small town in the Free State. And then I finished matric, and then I had to go to Bloemfontein to stay on my own for the first time. And I remember my own experience, and it goes back to what my mother and father instilled in me. And at that point, much as still I had doubts in myself, I was back in my subconscious saying, she will be all right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would catch myself doubting again.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a moment of alertness that parents, I think, should always have. So that one, the fear of the child going out should not hold the child back and you back, but also you yourself allowing yourself to say, you have done what you needed to do. That point in our lives is going to happen.
That brings us to conclude this discussion. We've covered our fears, we've covered our joys, and probably there are more questions from other parents, and we will continue to hear from other parents and from educators in knowing what happens at school. The bottom line is we pay attention, we communicate, we observe the development of our children. This brings us to the end of this episode. We'll see you next time. For contact, check at the explanation board, and keep safe, keep well, keep healthy.
Thank you for watching. Please check the description box below for more information on the program and how to get hold of us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to get updates on our future